2,
No.
1. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, David.
How you doing?
I'm all right. You all
Good.
right?
Yeah, I'm okay, mate. Yeah, I would probably appreciate you not having
you're
your
not
feet.
a big fan of my feet,
No,
are
but
you?
I've got a big nose and I can smell a lot, and usually they stink.
They don't stink.
And I appreciate this in the conversation we
Who's
should
that
have.
in my ear? Can you hear?
That's one of those voices again.
One of those voices.
I don't know. Look who we have. We've
Who
got
is it?
another guest. We're full of guests at the moment.
We're just
Full of guests.
full of guests.
This is someone I've met a few times.
Okay.
I've got to say, he's a very nice man.
It's not what you said.
No.
Thank you.
So, sir, who are you? Introduce yourself.
I've cooked for this man a couple of times and got to know him.
Yeah.
And we had a little chat and said about coming on the pod.
What is interesting, I've noticed, sorry, Dave, what is really interesting is that the amount of times we haven't spoken about this either.
That I interrupt you.
No, well, that's something else. But
That is when I interrupt you, I think.
where we go, right, who are you? Where are you from? And they go, my name's Simon and I'm from Derby. And of course, we don't mean that. We mean what company or organisation you're from.
But I always interrupt you when you go to introduce him every time.
In this case, probably won't be.
Yeah,
from.
I've got a clue where Dave lives, actually.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. Evening, both. That was like watching an old married couple, just sort of,
No,
getting it going. That was good.
Yeah.
I'm definitely the man.
Yeah. Just for the record.
Yeah, thank you.
Evening, Dave Draper. Fantastic to be here. This is my first podcast ever, so go gently
Amazing.
on me, please.
Ours too.
Go gently.
Never done it before. As Dave rightly says, this is rather random for us. We engaged with him for a couple of Chef Dave's dinners through family get-togethers, and they were absolutely amazing. And he's a top bloke. Apart from being a Spurs fan, I'm a big West Ham fan. Unfortunately, I've got my own issues. And then we got chatting about stuff, right, Dave? Mental health, life, family, whatever. And here we are. So, thanks for the invite.
Not at all.
Pleasure.
It's been a while as well, hasn't it?
Great to get the chance to come on. So thank you. Appreciate
Sorry
it.
that there's been a gap between when we first spoke and now.
I think it was you, wasn't it?
I know. Look,
Probably drunk.
to be fair, you are just always. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm so sorry. I'm busy.
It's him. Always cooking for him. It's his fault.
What's your favourite meal, Dave? That Dave does? Oh, 2 days. Good
This is
God.
complicated.
What?
It's not easy, is it?
Let's call him Little. We'll call him Little Dave.
Little Dave and Big Dave.
Yeah,
Big Dave
right.
and Bigger Dave. I think actually the last time definitely most of us just went for a steak, and it was. I have to say, Dave, sorry, it's the nicest steak probably had. It was absolutely perfect.
The ones you got from McDonald's.
Top man.
Morrison's is special. That's very kind. Thank you. I don't like,
He hates it, so carry
compliments
on.
are weird.
I know he'll hate
Especially when I'm
compliments,
talking about
Yeah.
my business when I'm being Dave.
Yeah,
It's a very
Little
uncomfortable
Dave.
feeling. Yeah.
Do you know what I love? Do you know what I loved about it? Just to make the point with you, Dave, and you'll remember this, I think, because I made a point to you. My kids, they're other halves, as you remember, right? So there's 8 of us. So 3 adult kids, they're 3 partners. A bit worried about being on show and the formality of getting a chef in and everything that goes with that, right? A bit fancy. And it couldn't have been more different, down to earth, fun, engaging, the way you talk about ingredients, how you source things, just putting everyone at ease. That for me is the differentiator. It's not just about the food. It's about the whole piece, and that's where you made a massive difference. So appreciate
Thank you
that.
very much.
Sorry.
I'm going to clip that bit
That's
up
true.
and use that.
No, big.
But it's true. It's not the food's the food, right? The food's got to be excellent, and it was. But that's not why I asked you about. And we come back to you again. It was about the experience overall. Subtle difference.
That's
Right?
very.
Do you strive for that? Out of interest, is that something you strive for or think about?
I always want to provide something that I would want, and I try to make everyone feel as comfortable as possible because I get so nervous. So the way I control that is I become slightly extroverted because I'm quite an introvert, really.
No way.
Yeah, I know it's weird.
No way.
It's hard to understand. It sounds like I'm joking, but I'm not.
No, seriously, I'm being serious. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I just want it to be. I just want it to be something that people like. I might cook for someone, and like 30 years later, they might go, "God, do you remember that chef when we went to Cornwall?" And I could be dead and gone, but they'll go, "Do we had such good fun, and the food was so amazing.
Absolutely.
And made it memorable. That's what I want. I just tried to make sure every sort of element is as good as I can physically do it. And it's really, I know we're going off piece slightly, but it's so tiring. I get so tired from doing just an event for like 4 people, because I basically spend all day from when I wake up. That's all I'm focused on. The whole world could be a light, but all I care about is getting to a place and making sure that customer is as happy as possible. And like I said, the whole world could be on fire. It doesn't matter. I don't care. People could be shouting and screaming. All I care about is that group and getting there and making sure.
Dave, as your customer, I can't see any of that. When you're on show like that, you'll surprise me with what you're saying there. I can't see it. All I see is someone really professional, fun, engaging, wants everyone to be at ease, right? So however you transform that into then how your persona comes across is...
I'm shitting bricks. Do you know what? Oh, just one last thing.
Way. No, because this is really relevant. Actually, I'm going to bring it right back round in a second.
You're very good at that sort of thing. Just one last thing on that, on the nerves. I used to get... So I've been doing it 17 years. So up until probably, I don't know, let's say 9 years ago, 8 years ago, I used to get such bad nerves that I'd have to pull over and actually... like nearly feel like I was going to throw up, actually get some air in and like try to compose myself.
No way.
And I still get really bad nerves now, but I've managed to sort of get them to a point where I can use them to my advantage.
Yeah.
But it's still they can be really debilitating sometimes.
That amazes me when you...
as soon as they open the door and I'm like, whether I know them or not, then the nerves just start to simmer down a little bit, just bubble away like that. But up until that point, I'm absolutely fucking my mind is a million miles an hour.
Sorry, Steve, I know you want to come in. Just one more comment about that. That amazes me when you say to me you do 190, whatever it is, a year out of these things, or whatever that number is, that you'll still feel like that when you're doing 191 of the year, whatever it might be, right? I find that incredible.
So I'm in Truro Thursday, which I'll be bricking it. So I've cooked for them before through another group. Friday, I've got a large group, which I've probably cooked for about 200 times, maybe even more. And he's very particular, and I get on really well with him. So there's pressure there. And then I'm driving to London for a surprise 50th for 12 people. It's 8 courses. So there's pressure there. I've got to make sure that's... Wow. And because I've cooked for them in Cornwall twice before, 3 times, and they've invited me up as a surprise for a husband's 50th. Because that's what they want. So there's pressure there. So I'm thinking, right, I need to perform. I've got to be Chef Sergeant. I've got to be that person.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say, because actually, and of course this is all really relevant, because I know we joke about it, but I know you find it really difficult to accept any kind of praise whatsoever. Like you're just like, yeah, and it's actually quite irritating, if I'm being honest.
He's covering his face. Look, he's covering his face.
That's why I'm covering my face, because I'm like, because everyone's talking about me. Put a chef's jacket on me now and talk about me.
This is what I was going to say.
But as me, I can't. As like Dave, I can't.
I mean, we should do an episode on Chef Sergeant. Actually.
No, I'll be a blubber. I'll be like,
yeah,
but it's
a right fucking mess.
It is interesting, but. Again, there'll be some reason for that, and we all struggle with it. I hate praise. Like I hate it. It's almost like you don't feel you're worthy of it, isn't it?
I don't feel like I am.
No,
I don't feel like I am.
But we've had this conversation with you before when I've said, look, when you've got people like Dave, and you were just mentioning your other customer that you cooked for over 200 times. I mean, it's odd to think that and I'm not belittling you with this, but it's odd to think that you wouldn't stop for a minute and think, well, if someone's asked me back to cook for them 200 times, I'm obviously doing something right.
Yeah, maybe. But on the other hand, I think that's all done. That's irrelevant now.
No, it's not.
To me, it is, because it's only it's the next event. Like when I cook for Dave again, or Brooke again, or whoever it might be.
Well, he's not going to invite you back. He doesn't want no bloody nervous wreck coming in.
No way. Not done, no way.
Now he knows.
Now the real Dave's revealed himself. I'm out.
Yeah, that's it. I'm out.
Now he knows that's going to make me even more nervous.
Yeah, good.
Which is just stupid. Anyway, can we move on?
But Steve, sorry, Steve. There's one serious point I'd like to make, and that is, just listening to what Dave was saying there, and what I said about the experience that we had. And that's the important thing, isn't it? I remember the experience. I remember the effect that the occasion had, won't remember the food in 10 years, but I remember how I felt about it, right? Or
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
how my family felt about it.
And that's
And
what it's about.
That's
all.
what I want to create as a
That's what it's all.
feeling.
That's what it's all about. It's a feeling.
Yeah.
Because I forget the food. I will forget the steaks after. Well, sorry, Dave. No offense, but I won't forget how we felt as a family and what the guy said after, and just how good we felt about that whole
On
evening.
the flip side, though, I've got
Really
to
powerful.
say, he's a shit friend. The amount of
You know
times,
that's absolute
the amount of
bollocks.
times I've been round here, right, and he'll be
Oh,
like,
yeah.
he'll come round here and be like, "Do you want some lunch, mate?" And I'm thinking, it's going to be some nice foie gras or nice.
He's going to make an effort, right? He's
Yeah,
got his hat on. He's going to make some effort,
fucking
surely.
cheese on toast
Nothing.
or some shitty soup or something that he's bought from Morrison's. Just not, just nothing.
So you're saying, where's Chef Dave gone?
Yeah.
Where's Chef Dave gone? Where is he?
Fucking Chef Dave's taking a break.
Where's he gone?
Yeah, but it was good cheese on toast, to be fair. So
That Worcester sauce, didn't it?
it did.
It
Yeah,
did.
no, it was.
Bit of mayonnaise.
It was all
what
right.
What could you ask for?
It was probably an 8 out of 10
I'm happy with
on
that.
the cheese on toast
Take
scale.
that.
Considering I put no effort in it, I'm happy with that.
I could tell.
Anyway,
Dennis,
let's
sorry,
move on.
yeah.
Right, so fucking hell, fucking hate that shit. I'm gonna edit it. I'm gonna edit this deliberately.
So obviously,
That's good.
when you first
It's all
met
good.
Dave, or when you got talking with Dave about, getting him on the pod, you've had quite a journey, Dave, haven't you? And I think that's why you wanted to, why we wanted to have you on. But, we're all about trying to find, and hopefully you don't get offended by this, trying to find normal people that you would walk down the street by and would think they're just a normal looking, there's nothing going on there, because I think a lot of the time people think that people with issues or that have had a certain journey or whatever it might be look a certain way, and we'd be able to spot them. And really, part of what we do is about that kind of awareness, and just that it's all right to have a chat about stuff, and actually people are quite happy to to share that whatever it is they're going through. So maybe why don't we shut up for a minute and let you talk about your journey.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. Well, I guess it's all come back to mental health, but for me, I come from a family, as did my wife, where we both feel we didn't have particularly fantastic upbringings. It's okay, right? But so wife even more than me. And when I go back and think about it further, and this is the chat I've had with Dave very quickly, my father took his own life. I was 25 at the time. He was 48. It's actually 31 years ago, just this weekend gone. Made worse by the fact that my wife and I, who weren't with him, we were engaged, I think, at the time, both found him. He had a history of mental illness in his family. That I'm going back a long time here, so who knows what was going on in his family. They came from the East End. He was one of 4 boys, brought up in a way probably was pretty stark post World War II, etc. Growing up in that environment, the stuff I just don't know about. My mum would retell the fact that he had a mental breakdown even before he was an adult, right? He was 16, I think. So he had a long history of mental illness when the taboos around that, were as strong as they ever were, right?
But you just didn't talk
back
about
in the
it.
day.
It was just, bloody get on with
shoved
it.
away.
Yeah.
All just shoved away.
Man
yeah.
up, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And then I had 2 boys. I've got a younger brother. And go back to this facade and bring it back to Dave, right? The chef, joking aside, there's a facade with a lot of people. My dad carried this facade around with him for many years. He was a quantity surveyor. He was educated there. He'd done his exams and stuff, held down a really good job. But obviously, that background, that history, that struggle, he was still, it was always underneath the surface, and that culminated in, he actually tried to take his life about 2 months before he actually did it, and he took an overdose. He went off for a walk somewhere. He like walking, and went to a local golf course. Just used to walk around there. Took an overdose. This sounds really stupid. We just sort of lay under a tree, and it was just laying there. Basically, my brother and I sort of half guessed where he might go for a walk, and we found him. We actually found him, and he was unconscious. So we got him to hospital. He got sectioned. Right, that's another thing. Whole conversation there about what that means in terms of. I don't know. I couldn't even tell you about that in terms of how stark that was, and I hope that's better these days. But it was pretty terrible then. And I always remember actually when he came out, and you're always trying to sort of get through to him and say you're going to be all right then, aren't you? And he gave you all the right plaudits, right, and the right noise. Yeah, of course I am. Feel much better. And he wasn't, right. It was all still going on underneath.
Bravado, isn't it?
The front again, that front piece, and then a couple of months on, he disappeared one night, November. 93. He basically took the car this time. Mother rang me and said, look, he's gone missing. Again, we sort of half guessed where he may be. And this is my wife and I, and went out, and he'd taken the car out and basically gassed himself. We found him, and he was long gone, to be honest with you. By the time we got there, he'd been there for a few hours, you know. I guess my reflections about that, looking back, just thinking about it this second, are just how the effect had me and my fiance and now wife. You know, we've been together, we just married 30 years this year, actually, which is why Dave came and cooked, just bring it back to that. And I think looking back, it's that sink or swim piece, right? I think it's very easy for us to just fall apart under the pressure of taking this on as a couple and trying to deal with it. And somehow we found the resilience, one of my favourite words, the fortitude, if you like, to kind of find a way through it. And thank God we did, right?
How
Yeah.
old are you, Dave?
Sorry to lay that on you guys
No,
straight
no,
away,
no,
but it's just, this is
That's
what
what it's
positions
about.
the conversation. Yeah, absolutely. I was 25. And Sarah was 21, 20 maybe, right? Well, it's the year before we got married, so
So
yeah.
did you go? I mean, obviously, you said your father attempted suicide before. I mean, was there any kind of, not that they were that obvious back then, but any kind of signs or symptoms, or was there any? Did you ever think that he was going to commit suicide?
Not at all. And you know what? Even after that episode, the first time where he tried to take an overdose, I sort of believe what he was saying. I believe that he wanted to be better. I believe that he believed in his family around him and the life that he had, right? He's had a great life. I think he'd paid his mortgage off, you know, financially stable, and no money worries. Nothing again on the surface, right? Nothing that I could see that was at the time going to be an issue, right? And he was saying the right things. That's my point. He was saying those right things, those plaudits, and yeah, I'm gonna be fine. Of course I am. Yeah, appreciate your help. You know,
Did he ever
I'm getting
indicate
there.
as to what the reasons were?
No, I never found out. And it almost feels like, actually looking back, that it sounds like a horrible thing to say anyway, but he sort of felt like he didn't have anything to bring to anybody else. And that's something I mean, he realised afterwards. He didn't realise the value of what he had. He couldn't see it himself. He couldn't see what he had around him that was
That's
so
exactly what
powerful.
my dad's like now.
Is that
My
right?
dad, I'm not sure if I can't remember what I've said. Sort of
You
my
told me that,
dad's,
yeah, a little bit, only a little
yeah.
bit, Dave. Yeah.
So my dad's had, I don't know, knocking on 20 years now. He's got suicidal ideation. But that's just part of him now. So happen one day potentially, you know, I know it's very sort of flippant, but so we go to, on that
Down.
wrist, Man Down. It's based in
Yeah.
Cornwall, but it's sort of,
I've seen your logo on the website and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
sort of it is going out in various other places out of the country, but it's a place where you just go along and talk. You don't have to talk, and actually,
Yeah.
it's really, really helped him. But I think that's something that he brought up the first time we went was, it doesn't matter. No one's. It's all right. It's all right if I'm not here. I'm not really up to much anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I had the pleasure of
Horrendous.
taking him 1 week when you were away, didn't I? And remember phoning you because
Yeah,
I was quite blown away by. I'd never heard someone say it. You know, and he basically just said, you know, I'm just done. I've had enough. I don't really understand. You know, I don't want to be here anymore. And it really hit me, like, and I had to phone you, and I didn't really want to, and you were kind
I
of
think
like,
wasn't I getting on a plane to South Africa?
and you, of
Which is
course,
fine.
and again, this sounds slightly flippant, but you were kind of like, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's
Get used to it. Yeah.
yeah,
Not
and
conditioned.
but Christ, Dave. So
Another
that
way, another way that we kind of saw this, and again, this is afterwards, I guess, is he'd left his affairs in apple by order. So when my mum went to look at this paperwork, if you like, you know, it's like it was all bundled up, ready to be, you know, figured out and sorted. It wasn't like she was reaching to try and find out his documents, and it was all just sort of, he thought he'd absolutely precisely managed, you
yeah,
know, his
yeah.
exit in a way.
Yeah, my dad had done that at one point when he
He'd
tried
like
to
to have
take his own
a
life.
tidy up. He'd like
Yeah,
a tidy up, right? You think it was nothing in the garage. Well, his whole life was just in an order.
admin was
yeah.
all
Dad
done.
had put
Exactly. His
like
personal admin was entirely in order. Yeah.
Perfect.
dad had put
It's
like
almost like I'm
really
not going to be a burden after. I've been a burden all my life in a way to people, and I'm going to make sure that I'm not going to be a burden when I'm not here. That was his mindset, right? Which is mad. It's just totally not mad. Sorry, that's the wrong phrase, but it's totally, you know, bizarre in
but
terms of how we might think about it. Right?
when you're not in that moment of
Yeah.
because I feel shite sometimes, and I'm not saying I don't feel suicidal anymore, but when you're in that moment, it doesn't feel mad. it just feels completely logical, don't we? Because we've spoken about
Yeah,
that. But then when
100%.
you come out of it, you're like, that's just happened. Why was I thinking I'm fucking worthless? Why did I think I wanted to do that? But when you're in that moment, you're like, you know it's not right to think like that, but you know, but it's
but
like
you
your
don't,
brain.
do you? Not when you're in the moment, because it seems, it seems like the only logical thing to do.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's only when you're not in it that you can reflect, isn't it, and go like, what?
Because that's the rational part of your brain's going to come back after, right? And
Yeah.
then that's going to.
So
How'd you come out of that, Dave? Just that's an interesting point
So
to
how
me.
do I come out of that? So
How'd you switch from, knowing that's probably not the real way, if you like, and you're just in that moment at a time and
if I
it's
get my like
negative?
really dark moments, so I don't really get the suicidal feeling anymore. If I get the dark moments, just feeling worthless, generally going for a run.
Okay.
Usually, it's always worked up until now. Just go for a really good run, keep running until my head stops shouting,
It's like
and
a
then
circuit breaker.
yeah. So is that a dog in the background?
Yeah, clipping. Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
That's fine. I thought it was.
Yeah, it's clipping on the floor somewhere. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's how I break it. Have you? So go back to you're 25.
Yeah.
Because back so that's 31 years ago. So when was that?
4.
93, but November 93.
Yeah.
Because I remember around that time, I can't say too much, but there was someone I know that had really bad mental health problems, but it was always like, and there's a place called Bodmin Mental Hospital, about an hour from here, Dave, and it would always be like, send them to the nut house, send them to Bodmin. They're in Bodmin. They've been chucked in Bodmin. It was always like that. And this person I know, God, I hate to say this out loud. This is so embarrassing. It was always a joke of like between people without giving too much away that I knew. It was always like, oh, just fucking chuck him in Bodmin, fucking section him like, oh yeah, he's fucking mental. Oh, that's terrible. I feel genuinely embarrassed to even say that out loud. That's a horrible thing to say, but that's unfortunate. That was the attitude of what it was like.
And I imagine even more so, Dave. Did you say that you used to live in the East End?
No, sorry, that was my family from the East End.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. That's what I was just making the point that the stuff that went on in his background somewhere.
That's right. Yeah.
Sorry. He moved out of the East End and moved to Shenfield and Essex, actually.
Right.
A lot of East End families moved out to Essex after the war. Yeah, say four kids. Probably money was tight back of the war. I don't know what went on, right? I'm sure.
But even so,
I dread to think. Yeah,
I think even when I was growing up, and I mean, I'm 39. Like, I think back to secondary school. We know it's terrible still now. It's nowhere near as bad as it was, but it's still not good enough. But that we shouldn't be having to. We have to, but just us sitting here talking about men's mental health is just because it's not done enough, but can you remember how you felt, Dave? And I'm really sorry. I know it's a difficult question, but how you felt, like, not necessarily when you found him, because I appreciate it would have been horrendous, but kind of in those kind of like weeks and months afterwards.
I think the overriding thing was sorrow, to be honest. Sorrow for what he was going to miss, that he wasn't around anymore. And there's the obvious thing, right? You go through this sort of despair thing, don't you, a lot of the time? But it's just that loss, that miss, just felt the stuff that he wasn't going to see, right? Because I was at that age, going to get married, missed my wedding, right? He was at the engagement party and then the wedding. That was in between the two. We had kids a couple of years later. He's missed out on 3 kids. Always carried that with me, actually, to answer your question. Right through my life, effectively, as I've seen my kids grow up. I hope he would have been proud of, and would have been a fantastic grandfather, right? And he never got that chance, right? That's probably the biggest thing I carry with me, just that sorrow piece.
Yeah, no, of course.
Somewhere along the line, though, probably got angry years later. Not at the time. Your question was about the time. It was definitely sorrow, but you get angry thinking, you left us, and you left us to sort of deal with it and pick it up. But
I've lost your sound, Dave. Have you put the?
Sorry, that's me.
Hang on a sec.
Oh, bucket around with it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. Hang on. No worries. I'll just see what's going on here.
Sorry, it's my fault.
It's Dave's fault. You haven't unplugged your friend, have you?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, it won't be a second, Dave.
That's me. Sorry.
messed it right up now, Dave.
Sorry.
Can you talk? Give us a second. Sorry. So, Dave, obviously, once you were mentioning about, obviously there was a period of sorrow, and then you got to that kind of anger. Like, what was that? What was that anger? Was it, like you say, was it almost like a kind of, how could you do that kind of thing?
It was a kind of pretty blunt, you've left us in the shit here to kind of clean up this mess. You've taken an easy way out. I don't mean this, by the way, right? But you've taken an easy way out, and I've got to now carry this around the rest of my life with me and try and deal with it. And of course, trying to get behind my mum at the time. Got a younger brother as well. Probably, if I'm honest with you, the stigma that I mentioned earlier, stigma we talked about with mental hospital and what was going on 30 years ago, probably thinking about how you're being thought about by the people, right? Rightly or wrongly.
Yeah.
Then, and I hope it's gone now from what it was. It probably has improved, but I'm sure people were looking at us thinking,
I think that's to a certain degree. I mean, I think, dare I say it, I think there's still an element of it within the older generations that are still very much, of that mindset, and understandably, I guess. I'm not saying that it's right, but I think there's always those generational differences. But I didn't realise you had a younger brother as well. And so, and your mum is your mum still with us?
Yeah, she is. Yeah, but that's a tricky area actually. I was close enough to her at the time, but and she's a young mum. She's 20 years older than me. She's 20, so she's very young. She's only mid-70s now, but. If we fast forward here, this is where it probably gets a bit more messy in a way where she got married and then had kids and then kind of fell out with her a little bit about, I don't know at the time, it's going back a long time, about her, the way she wanted to be a grandmother. She was a bit sort of hands off. Sarah, my wife, was very close to her mum at the time, on and off, and we sort of fell out with my mum over that. And given that background I told about my dad, that's not fantastic. And then we got it back with my mum after, and it's fallen apart since. So both of us actually have carried that forward with our parents, despite that background as well.
Do you think that part of that is because of that kind of trauma? Let's call it what it is. The kind of trauma that you've been through. There's always going to be that extra kind of, there's always. There's always dramas, isn't there, really, between kind of, I know with my parents and my wife's parents, and then, then there's the whole stepmom and step-parents thing and stuff like that. There's always, but do you think there's an extra layer there? Or
no, do you know what? I've never ever associated what happened to my dad with then falling out with my mum, rightly or wrongly. To me, they're very different things that happen at different times, and I think it probably was more down to us being young parents at the time, right? Yeah. So Sarah was 24, still quite young relatively. So pressure from her mum. Her mum and dad had their own problems as well. Come from a relatively poor background. Drink was involved. Difficult characters to get on with. She was fighting that as well. She fallen out with her mum and then got back with her after. She just had a lot of push and pull going on, and that's interesting actually. At that point, I've never put the two together. In my mind, they were very separate sort of situations.
But
for separate reasons.
We often,
rightly or wrongly.
No, you're right, and I'm obviously not trying to.
No, not at all.
But
you raised an interesting point.
Sometimes you have that kind of, those underlying things that are, I mean, I could speak about it for hours. I'm not going to, but it's that kind of, it's our new kind of. You almost have like when you reset after trauma. You never fully. It's a bit like the iPhone and the rubbish batteries. They never fully recharge, and it's like you never fully go back to 0%, ready to take on extra stress. And I've felt that a lot over my life. And of course your wife Sarah. I mean, again, phenomenal that you had each other and you've worked through that. How did she cope with it? And I guess what I'm really asking, is how what's the word I'm looking for? Relevant is not the right word, but hopefully you'll get my question. How relevant was she to you being able to hold it together and carry on?
Oh, I don't know. I can't put that to words. Probably. I think because we found him together, and this is so silly, but in the day, there was no mobile phones. But we're going back before mobile phones here. So I was, when we found him, as I mentioned, I was sort of trying to open the car. She got in the car. I think she tried to resuscitate him basically, and I ran off to the phone box. Right, so it sounds so stupid now, doesn't it? With where we are these days with phones and that, I literally sprinted down to the local phone box to phone 999 to get an ambulance there. That sounds bizarre, but just looking back now, to your question, I think we're just so in it together. With this sort of bizarre situation, looking back now, that 30 years on, that it was that make or break piece, right? And we found it. I couldn't do it without her, right? And she's been the whole crutch around.
She's a lovely woman, by the way. She's a lively. So she's quite funny.
Lively.
She's quite
lively.
She's lively.
You should get her on. You should get her on yourself.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's a really good shout.
We've done it before.
Yeah,
we've done it before.
Yeah. She is a top woman.
Because she's her own mental health journey with her own parents and background and stuff.
Yeah.
And
I'd imagine she's been a huge support.
She's been massive. Massive. Hopefully to each other, right? But she's to answer your question, Steve, she's been a rock. The rock, to be honest.
They normally are. Let's be honest.
Right.
Our wives normally are. I mean, sometimes they're not. But when they are, they are. And Dave,
I think we're always sorry. Well, just make a point on that. I think the foundation of that was probably we're always mates. It's just everything, isn't it? Right? I really believe in that, and I can see it in my kids with their relationships. They're really good mates with their other halves. I can see it, right?
Yeah.
And it's so powerful, isn't it? Don't you think? If you've got any chance you've got, has to start with that, doesn't it?
Yes, because it's the foundation.
We're still good mates, right? We're still good mates. We still try and make each other laugh. We still do stupid things like leap out at each other and mess around.
I could imagine.
That's what it's all about.
Does that? Dave's full of, for fuck's sake, Sarah, you've just done that, and you've frightened me the first time. I could imagine. Honestly, she's bloody.
She's quite lively.
Rhea does that. Rhea nearly knocked me out once. We used to live in this old cottage, and and it had like solid. It had like beams that were low, and I always remember coming out of the bedroom one day, and she was the other side of the wall, and she went "Wah!" like that, and of course I jumped up, knocked my head on the floor.
No way are you tall enough to knock your head.
No,
even jumping, you wouldn't be tall enough.
These were low beams.
There's off some steps.
I'm not 4 foot, you dick. But but it's nice, and do you know what? It's important because a lot of people, they, myself included, you get so caught up in the life and the kind of the getting up, going to work, coming home, doing the washing, going to bed, that you forget all that, and it's important. It's really, really important. And so, do you think?
I think just another answer for you in a way would be looking back. And she's done it ever since, actually. She just goes, she's really good. I mean, I'm sort of fall apart with stuff and start panicking but she's quite good going to fix it mode, quite practical.
Yeah, because
mentality shifts like that, right? She's, it's almost like a brain, right? This needs to be sorted. It's a strong woman thing, I think, right? At the end of the day.
It clicks in.
And that's what works. It absolutely clicks in. And that's what works because we are so different, right? She's more practical than me. It's embarrassing to say I can't change a plug, right? I'm totally useless,
Oh.
But the yin and yang somewhere.
Me. We can all be useless together.
But that yin and yang somewhere between us, right? It kind of finds its way out somewhere. But her part of that is more powerful than mine, I'd say, 100 times over.
Isn't that interesting, though, Dave?
Thank God for that. Thank God for that.
I'm sorry to pull you up on this because I know you didn't mean it literally, and we all did it actually. Then it was said we were useless, and I know we're kind of. It is a bit tongue in cheek, but I've started to think about more of this. We can't change a plug. I was going to say I can't hang a picture. I'm useless, and it's interesting how, and and I'm being a little bit dramatic for dramatical purposes, but that does happen a lot. Rhea will be out with friends or whatever, and Rhea will say, "Oh God, he's useless. He can't do that," and everyone will go, "Really? You can't do that?" And it's I think it's become so normalised that we kind of, it's all right. But actually, I imagine that kind of thing. I mean, and I'm asking myself the question because I don't think I've ever been offended. I think it's quite funny that I can't. You know,
it's interest for me. I just can't find the interest in the first place, right? In all that stuff.
Yeah,
I wish I could.
exactly.
Honestly,
Yeah.
and my dad was when he was alive, and my brother is, and so forth. You know, those are friends. I just haven't got that basic interest around.
Yeah, I've been shown that sort of thing so many times. Like, this is what you do. But for some, do you know, it's exactly the same at school. Get taught something, and I'll try really hard. But the only things that ever stuck were design, like woodwork, and cooking, and PE. Everything else,
cooking. That would have been funny if you didn't.
Everything else, just I couldn't get it to stick. And it's the same now with stuff. Like, I'm getting back into the guitar, and I really want to learn that so it sticks.
Yeah.
Other stuff like sticking pictures up on the wall, I can do, but like I just can't seem to.
Oh,
I've smashed up literally so many things through anger. This was when I was a lot younger. Like, I'd be getting the drill. I remember one day I had the drill like straight through the wall, like the flipping, like the end of. Or just literally just hammered a nail up, just hung the picture on it. Like fucking useless. I've just done it again. I know. No. But the thing is, the point I was going to get to, coming round to it in a roundabout way, was I think I used to berate myself a lot, say useless, and blah, and all this all the time. But I think if you do it just tongue in cheek. Yeah,
no, I'm saying it's tongue in cheek.
I
am saying it's tongue in cheek, but equally, you know, there is. I still don't. I'm trying to get head up on it, but I do think that it's not necessarily right, and I bring it back to what Dave was saying. You know, I think it's absolutely fine if you've got two people in a relationship. You know, one person's really good at something. It's better to be complimentary, I think. Than
what is it you do at home then?
Than you both have. Well, where do you want me to start? Yeah. But you know, and I think that's all right.
Serious point about that. I'm interested. How do you guys feel like you are then becoming the other side of the coin, if you like, and making sure you're the 50p out of the pound that's, you know, doing your bit as well? How do you?
I feel good about that.
You're bringing that bit, yeah.
Yeah, I feel good. I feel like I don't have to. I feel like I'm not responsible for stuff as much as what I have been, without going into too much sort of detail. There's a good balance. Like Fee loves getting stuck in and doing the rubbish. Loves all recycling. Does like the man sort of the manly stuff like that. And I'm like. Yeah. She's great at organising. I'm good at organising when it comes to my work. Outside, I'm like, I can't be arsed. But Fee sort of takes that. So I'm quite happy. It works. Yeah, I'm quite happy with it.
Yeah. And I suppose we've got a kind of, at our core, we've got a kind of traditional family, I would like to say. You know, Ria's very much the kids and the whole kind of, the children's side of things.
And you do the manly stuff like
water the plant. I try and do manly things. That's my.
You're
thing.
like me though, and you just.
You know, she'll be like, "Oh, can you put this picture up?" Oh, she doesn't do it anymore. We've just.
Just get blue tack. And
No. Well, no, I've done that before. Yeah, I've done no more nails. I've done that. I've done. I've got fucking tons. You know those like multi-pack screw things you get from B&M
as well.
And you go. And I just go, and I'll screw it into the wall and then hang a picture on, you know. But it's like this heavy duty, like 40-inch screw.
Yeah.
You know, could hold up a bloody.
You could hang yourself on it, like probably the wrong. Not for now. Yeah,
but and it's.
I'm not sure I'd be trusted with a blue tack, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. I don't
really?
think I'd be trusted that far. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Does Sarah not let you into like the DIY drawer?
Well, she's just rolling eyes at me, saying, "Yeah, don't even bother. I know where this is going. Don't even bother." But just my question, I suppose. Then, and I had the same thing. You know, Sarah was at home when the kids were growing up. We had 3 kids under 3.5, right, when they're first born. She became a bit of an earth mother, and we got them into 3 really good separate grammar schools in Essex. Done really well. 2 of them went on to uni. You know, that was all down to her basically. So hopefully, the bit that you do bring is the facilitation of that and making sure that you know it all right, and that it's the unsaid thing in a way, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
It can be.
I never overplayed that hand, you know. But
No,
something's there that makes the glue between you kind of work, doesn't it?
I'll tell you what, but staying at home and looking after kids is
it's not easy.
that's hot. That's a proper job. That is.
Yeah, no, it's
absolutely
not easy.
right.
Wow, that's a hard job.
But-
They asked me earlier on actually, which is harder, chefing or bringing up kids. I was like, bringing up kids is the hardest thing.
Yeah.
And hardest thing I've ever experienced.
Did you
That's
ever?
the thing about.
Sorry, Dave.
Sorry. I was just going to say, that's the thing about, obviously, I think for me also, and it's the same for a lot of people in the city can swallow you up a little bit. Working in London, commuting in, right? That's a couple of hours, 2.5 hours every day in total. Yeah, you go missing, right? And I've missed so many parents' evenings and stuff along the way, you know, and you're trying to make your choices about, you know, what's important in life and trying to provide, right? And trying to make sure that everything's set up as you want it to be. I want my kids to go out without anything, and I don't think they have. And I think they're very grateful for that, by the way, as well. But it comes at a cost as well, doesn't it, right?
You've done your 50p.
There's always a cost, isn't there?
Oh, very much so. But you've held your 50p up like the side.
I think I have, but not always in in the best way, right? You make some choices along the way, and it's not that easy, is it? Right?
Yeah,
that's what I was actually oddly, Dave. That's what I was going to say.
That's where you're going. That's where you're going.
Is I think do you know what? Up until the last 3 to 6 months, which is strange, really, because I've got 3 kids. 18. Sorry, it's 18 in January, but she's already 18 in my mind. 17, 16, and 12.
Right.
And I've always felt like, I'm not going to say I've always felt like a good dad, but I've always felt like I played my part, right? So, but I say last 3 to 6 months, I've really been beating myself up with, you know, have I been good enough? Have I, you know, have I been enough? You know, and have I been present? Have I been a big enough, especially with my boy who's 12, because obviously I can relate to him a lot more. And I'm really struggling with that. Even now, you know, I'm struggling with, you know, if I'm a big enough influence, or have I been a big enough influence in his life? And I just, you know, I think that's the unseen thing that a man has to go through, because you've just laid it out. I mean, you could have been talking about me there, you know, like about, you know, working and because of it's not stuff, it's bloody reality. You know, you've got to put food on the table and a roof over the head. They're those two things. And I just wonder how, even more so, I guess, given what your trauma and what you went through, how you feel about that and how that's affected you, if it has.
Do you know what the word you just said there, Steve, which resonates with me, is being present?
Yeah.
And that, I think I battle with that because of the city thing, as I mentioned, and you know, the career piece that goes with that, trying to prove yourself, right? It's a bit of a rat race, as you know.
Yeah.
You know, I think that makes it tougher. The mental health side of that, if you look at all the stats, you know, more people suffering probably in the city than elsewhere.
Yeah.
Burnout and whatever, without being fancy about it. And I think that being present thing is the thing I've sort of battled with, and I'm not sure I've ever got it right either.
No.
And I just look at the way that, I suppose the only thing I can say to you is I look at the way the kids have turned out. They are resilient. All 3 are doing really well. The grafters, the great kids, right? You know, and that's how I kind of try and look through that eyes and say, that's how I know it's kind of between us somehow. I've done my bit as well in that.
Yeah.
I feel like that, but I do question it a lot. I will still question that now, you know, because I'm not as emotionally connected to the kids as my wife is. She brought them up.
No, same.
Like we just talked about, right? The Earth Mother thing. I can't be, right? I can't be.
But you can't.
It's not the same thing, is it? I can't. But also, just try to do my piece.
No, you can't do you can't have provide X amount and do this, and you can't be there all the time and fulfill those. You can't fulfill everything. It doesn't work like that. So you're clearly a grafter. I know that. That's clear from talking to you now, and I knew that before anyway. So your kids wouldn't have got that if you weren't like that. That's one thing. You've said they're grafters, which they wouldn't be. Yeah. You wouldn't have. You said about they've been to the right schools, or whatever you said a minute ago, and you think they've not wanted for anything. So if you didn't graft like you had, then they wouldn't have had all that anyway. So and I know there's got, like you say, there's a trade-off.
Yeah.
So the trade-off was potentially you've probably missed out on, like you've said, about
missed out some
parents'
stuff.
evenings, and I've done that as well. But I've put that to bed. I'm quite happy with it.
Yeah.
I'm content about it. Then
I agree, and the biggest thing I say I'm content as well about it is they appreciate it. We get that back. We get that sense of that, right?
Yeah.
Even now, they appreciate what they get even now, right? And we still try and spoil. Stupid, like certain don't live at home. We're still trying to spoil them at Christmas and go mad, right?
Yeah.
That's our role still, even now, right? And but the appreciation of that is as strong as ever.
Yeah.
And that's where I get some gratification and the sense that I've done my bit, Steve. To your point, right?
Yeah.
It could always be more.
Yes,
it could always be more, right?
Yeah.
And that's my issue. It could always be more, but have I done
that's
enough?
human nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're all like that. We all want more. We want to do more. We want to be at home more. We want to work more. We want more. It's just...
Yeah, do you know what? And it might be a bit of a hard-hitting question, Dave, so sorry. But, I think personally, because I didn't have a great relationship with my dad, and I don't know if you've watched any of the other episodes and things like that, but, my dad basically sexually abused me when I was a very young age, for a prolonged period of time. And I feel like, so I guess I'm again starting on that footing of obviously I'm not going to do that, but I've almost got to kind of distance and do so much more than that. I think that's where I've been going with that. And Dave, do you feel that maybe, because you mentioned about the kind of sorrow and the anger, do you feel perhaps again that there's part of you that when you're at work or you stuff like that maybe that's been a bit of a driver for you as well, that you've got to...
I do.
Yeah?
I think it's a great question, actually, and I do. I feel like from a really young age, after, I found some drive and determination to make something of myself, and I didn't have a great education, particularly didn't go to uni, didn't go to college. Well, I went to college, but just about, right?
Yeah.
I left school with very little. Parents never drove me to do that at the time either. And somewhere I found some drive and determination to try and improve myself, and I do believe it's come from that. I'm the same as you there, I think. Absolutely. And it still drives me now, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
It still drives me. It's not going back to where I started and what I had to sort of see and put up with at that time.
Because you never want your kids to see that. That's why, isn't it?
No. And it's Sarah as well, with her background, that I touched on her family as well, in terms of the difficulty of her upbringing and that. She's never going back to that. And she goes mad on the kids, right? But part of that has been she's not going back to that point either. We want our kids to look back, as they do now, hopefully, and say they had the best childhood, right?
Yeah,
I think they do. I hope they do, right? And that's everything to us. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. If you've done that bit, you're kind of halfway there, right?
You're so right.
In comparison.
Kids are so... God, I can't get my words out today, but they're just so, like, robust, aren't they? I think we don't give them enough credit. I mean, I don't sit there and interrogate them, but I always try and make sure that they feel like they can talk to me, and and I don't think they would, I mean, we've had discussions, split with the older two, about, look, I'd love to be able to come and do this with you, for example, but I've really got to do this, like, and things like that, and they're like, it's okay, we understand, and those moments are quite hard to swallow, because you're, in one hand, you're kind of like, I've done good, by the fact that they're sitting there going, it's all right, Dad, we get it, we understand, and in the other hand, you're like, oh, I kind of wish you'd be angry with me, I wish you'd... So it's a weird kind of...
Yeah, so I don't...
Yeah. I wish you'd go, for fuck's sake, Dad, like, why can't you just do this for me, just this one time?
But I suppose you've taught them right. You've taught them to be understanding.
I know, but it's...
Actually realise that you're working hard and you can't always commit.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Or is that you projecting...
Well,
your
100%.
wishes, or that they would get angry with you, so then you might think about not doing that.
I don't know, but this is kind of full circle stuff, isn't it? Because I think that's the kind of one of the battles that we have as I'm going to say it. I do think it's fairly unique to men. I think, we have this, and I'm only speaking for myself, but we have this kind of this real kind of juggling game going on between, even now when we're a lot more open minded and dare I say it, in touch with our feminine side than your father was or your grandparents were, Dave.
Absolutely, 100%.
And that is that it's we still feel like we have to be, the person that is providing. I think that's hardwired. I think that's a kind of,
it's just in the genes as a male.
Hunter-gatherer kind of thing. But then we also have this love, for our wives and our kids and those that are really close to us, but almost still, and I think now where we're at is exploring that disconnect between kind of being able to be emotional, with and actually sometimes go, because this is the difficult part, right? I've never done this, and what was I doing the other day? I've not even told you this. So, very rare moment the other day, and I'm only saying this, and I know it's not the me show. It's talk about Dave, but I think you'll be able to connect with this. Max was watching the telly, and everyone else was out, and I just took 10 minutes, and I went and sat next to him, and I put my head on his shoulder, because he's a 12-year-old boy. He's so fucking uninterested now in being, going out and playing fucking games and stuff like that. And I did have a little, I didn't cry and I didn't let him see, but I had a few tears. But, I'm looking at him, he's kind of picking his nails like that, and he's bitting all his nails away. And I'm thinking, wow, like, he's probably, of course he's got stuff on his mind, he's just got a girlfriend and he's a 12-year-old boy at secondary school, he's got all the hormones and everything going on. But I was just like, he holds it together. He's holding it together. He's kind of really turned his life around this last kind of 12 months at school. And I don't know, it just felt quite emotional, And
you felt like that he was sort of growing up.
Yeah, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Yeah,
it does do that. You have these moments. I have moments now. I'm sure Dave does.
I don't think that goes away.
Yeah,
no. 12, 18, 24, 30, I don't think that feeling goes away, to be honest with you. I really don't. Just picking up on a little thing you said there. I think we've, because of our backgrounds with our own upbringings and stuff, just a few things, Steve, that you said there that just shook me a little bit. We've really been open with our kids over the years, so we don't hide anything. There's some very earnest and open conversations with them about stuff. We like to challenge and be challenged by them as well, right? Yeah. And we've been very open about that sort of thing as well. So it's almost like we try to do the opposite of how we thought we were brought up and try and bring our own and the reverse of that. But hopefully, and be kind, obviously, and spoil and I've never taught my kids to be grafters, like I was saying earlier. That's just come naturally out of, like you said, Dave. They've seen the demonstration of that, right?
Yeah.
What that means. So somewhere in all that, we found the recipe that has kind of worked for us.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard.
It's hard. That mix,
there's
that
no
whole mix is
manual.
really very difficult.
It's love, tough love, and then sometimes
open,
the reality.
Engaged, right? Listening. Tough, the tough thing is a really big thing, right? You've got to be tough on your kids at times. You can't,
That's hard.
There's still a box right here, isn't there? We're all working in a box somewhere.
Yeah.
Applies to them as well, right? It does apply to them,
So, Dave, on the note of, like, your dad passing away, after he passed, obviously, as we've covered already, sort of mental health was like, lock them up, the nuts. Did you or Sarah struggle after that, and looking back, maybe you thought you didn't at the time, but looking back, you did, or have you suffered over the years in any way?
I think probably struggled afterwards with our age, the age we were. We were young, right? 25, 26, 21, and kids come along fairly quickly afterwards. Looking back now, I wish I'd had the wherewithal to manage my tough mother, if you like, where she was, tough in-laws as well, in a way that was all about the kids rather than us squabbling and the silence and not getting on, then getting on, then not getting on, and this cycle we went through on both sides for a number of years. With the benefit of hindsight and obviously mature now, there should have been a way of just making that about, this is about our children here, and we've all got to make this work, right? I didn't have the skills as a parent, a dad, an adult at the time to probably deal with that. And that's the regret I probably got looking back, because I look back now, I think we could have kept that together in a better way, right? I don't speak to my mum now, unfortunately. We've gone to and fro, and this is the throw, probably for another day. But I'm always going to have that regret, I think, when I look back. And it might, if it was set differently when we were that young, I think it could have been very different. That's probably a big regret, actually.
Yeah.
And,
I can hear that in your voice.
Yeah, it is.
You sound really sort of...
Well, just, I wasn't mature enough, I don't think, if I'm honest with you, at that age to kind of bang heads and make it work, right? I didn't have that.
But then you did what you thought was right.
Yeah, I did at the time.
And
we did. It was about our kids, and we try and protect our kids as well, I guess, and each other, right? A little bit.
That's the main. That's for me. That's the main thing. If you look back and say, "Well, I protected my kids," maybe it wouldn't.
Yeah,
maybe I could have gone about it a different way, but you still protect them. That was. What can you?
We've always talked about our 20p's. We're 520p's for a silly thing, but it meant it's always meant something, right?
Yeah. No,
so
I like that.
When you get like that protection around that became paramount. You really did.
Yeah, and family, especially immediate family, is always going to be. I mean, I don't get on with my mother-in-law. My wife has a tolerable relationship with her, and I think, you know, I mean, we're I was going to say we're lucky enough. I'm going to say that because I know she doesn't like me and she won't be listening to this. But you know, I'm lucky enough to only see her probably once a year. But again,
right.
But sometimes, do you know what? I do regret that. Yeah. I do regret that, because I think, and again, this is something I've been thinking about more and more recently, actually, and I know it's slightly morbid, but we are hurtling towards the end, you know, absolutely hurtling. And I've really started to think this, you know.
Does all this sort of stuff come up since you've been off your medication?
Yeah.
You said a minute ago, the last 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. But
and it's been 3 to 6 months.
I enjoy those thoughts, by the way. I'm not, you know, I know.
I do.
It's really, you know, Dave, I was on antidepressants, you know, for about 20 odd years.
Wow.
And I came off 3-6 months ago. And
hey, Dave, got a funny story. We've already told it, but this made me laugh. He went to the circus, and there was this really attractive woman. She had such a nice ass that he started crying.
That's not the story.
He got so emotional, so upset with happiness that he cried over how attractive her bottom was.
Do you know what, Dave? I mean, it's mildly true. It was, you know, I was...
There felt like a twist in that story somewhere,
doesn't it?
Gently twisted. Gently twisted, yeah.
A little bit.
You know, I was proud of her, really. It's probably the... You know, fuck off. She was doing something so phenomenal, like, you know, and there was the music and the kind of, you know, like it all is, you know, and it was like a few weeks after, and it still happens. What was I watching? I was watching something. Oh, do you know what?
Heartbeat.
No, I've been a big fan
with Nick Berry.
A big fan of I'm a Celebrity.
Don't tell me you cried.
Right? Did you watch I'm a Celebrity, Dave? I doubt you do, but
not really.
No. And they were reading out their stories from loved ones.
Do we have to talk about this?
And but I love that now. Do you know what?
I've watched that many times, and I have cried over that many times. To be fair, they can be pretty heavy going, those letters.
Having your emotions right has been phenomenal, and actually, I think there's a bit of a. Is it an oxymoron? I think that's In the actually something I learned at school. It was always in the spelling test. The last, it was like we did this 100-word spelling test, and I remember the last couple it'd be oxymoron, and then the last one would always be onomatopoeia.
Like, you love saying that word
every time. But anyway,
sorry. What was your point, Steve? What was your point about hurling towards the end? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So I feel like I'm
interested.
Yeah, I feel like. I feel like I've wasted a lot of my life, I suppose is probably one thing to say. And that probably sounds a little bit harsh, but not in, you know, obviously don't regret my wife, my kids, or anything like that. I think being in the rat run, being in the concentrating on things that aren't important, concentrating on others' feelings, others' perceptions of me, you know, and actually, and I'm not talking about, you know, what we were just talking about, the kind of the necessities, you know, of going to work and stuff like that, but just being slightly kind of misaligned, you know, from the way forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I now feel that, and I suppose that's why I'm getting those feelings more of you know, have I been present enough, you know, yada yada yada. But I do feel like when I look at a typical week, you know, where, you know, you're kind of getting up early in the morning, you know, emptying the dishwasher, getting the lunches ready, going to work, coming home, you know, doing some washing, doing dinner, reading,
Rinse
going
and
to
repeat,
bed,
yeah.
and I suppose I'm just thinking, like, we can't go on doing that until we die, because what's the point, you know?
But having kids, it makes life a little bit like that, and that's no offence to your kids or my kids or Dave's kids, but it's because you can't. You have to do certain things in certain ways.
Yeah, yes and no, but I get the operational side of it, you know, the operational stuff, but it's what we don't do as a family is make time. You know, so, you know, we don't like, we met with your mate from the other chef the other day. What was his name?
Oh, Guy. Owens.
You know, they have a Sunday. Sunday is their day.
Well, he has one. They both have one day off a week. It's a Sunday.
Exactly.
That's it.
But that's fine. So they got that time, but Sunday's their time. You know, I just introduced last week. Thursday morning. I'm not working Thursday morning. I mean, I'm an absolute workaholic. I could work 24/7, right? And I know you, having worked in the city, Dave, you'll know exactly what that's like. These country bumpkins, they don't know about that. But
part timers.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
But it's but it's and now, you know, do you know what? For the first time in probably actually, that I've put Ria before work. Actually, if I go as far as saying that, I took 3 or 4 hours out on Thursday morning, and I also did something I've not spoken to you about. I did something she wanted to do, because how many times as blokes do we go, oh, let's go down the pub, or do you want to go out for dinner, or should we go to the cinema?
Yeah,
and
I've got an example. That's really prompted me, because we went to the cemetery on Sunday because it was Father's anniversary, as I mentioned earlier, and just put some flowers down, whatever. And on the way back, we just went for a cup of coffee. And it's just a visit to a local Costa, nothing at all, right? Just service on the way back. You know what? It was very pleasant, utterly pleasant, and just chatting there about shit for an hour, sort of unscripted, if you like, you know, just because we happened to be out anyway. Do you know what's the value of that? And it reminded me of watch some of the high performance podcasts with Jake Humphries now and again, some of them, and he talked about the difference between importance and urgency, and the problem we have, I think, is we tend to focus just on the urgent all the time, don't we? And the urgent then gets in the way of the important, right? And then what you're talking about there, the important for you, Steve, was what I've heard you, that Thursday morning is it's become urgent now, isn't it? Effectively, it's switched from the important, right, to the urgent. We're so guilty of all that urgent stuff, like getting in the way.
But it's not.
It's a really good lesson, actually. Yeah, but it's not because it's not. It's the wrong way round. It's actually the wrong way round, right? We're all guilty of it. But we all do it.
Absolutely, yeah. But it was
a really easy example. I think.
No, I love that. I love that. And again, it's you know, for us, it was walking the dog, coming back to Rose's, and having a coffee and a bit of breakfast. And, you know, there was no grand gestures.
That doesn't sound too difficult, right? That's not a massive effort
how mental is that?
or a setup, or a massive setup before that
how mental is that,
prepare for.
Because we do that as blokes, right? And again, we know we're overcompensating. You know, we do the flowers and we do the swanky meal out, and we do the, you know, I mean, fuck me, Dave. I took my wife for our anniversary, went on a day trip to Alicante. Right, so I was going. It was right only, because it was cool, you know. But it was like, and she, I mean, my wife's quite honest with me, to be fair, cause, you know, and she was like, it was nice, but I probably wouldn't want to do it again, you know, because it was a lot. You know,
Damned by faint praise.
Well, this is it. You know, we were at Bristol at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't get back
pricey.
It's a
until
lot of
2
effort,
o'clock.
that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a lot of effort for a day
And
out.
it was
Yeah.
beautiful and it was different
Right.
and definitely won't forget it. But then when you think about going for a dog walk and a coffee...
It sounds like that's resonated more, the dog walk, the coffee. And
100%.
the chill, right?
It was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Like, really, really nice.
But you saying about that point you made a minute ago, I wanted to make it and I forgot.
As a surprise.
About the blokes getting bound up and we're always doing this, we're all doing that, I think you were saying.
I can really lose the presence part of that. I feel that as well. I can get wrapped up in work. I find it very difficult to jump off a train and just switch on to family life or just
Yeah, that is very difficult. Right? Yeah, but then
I find that whole presence piece around that at times quite.
But what are we supposed?
But
What are we supposed to do? We try to balance it up, right? Well, I'm a workaholic. That's fine. I put my hands up. But what do we do? That's the best thing. But I don't know. We try to make the balance right.
We recognise the importance of the urgency piece and try and shift those plates a little bit, right? I think that's what we try and do.
Do you ever sit outside the house, Dave, for a few minutes before going in?
No.
No, see, I do.
No, yeah.
That's
again a circuit breaker, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can imagine if it was because I've only got Thea and the dog, so there's never. I'd imagine, and no offence to your kids, obviously, but I know what it's like when you've got kids. It's quite chaotic.
Yeah,
you go in, Dad, you're like this, and Ria's saying something. It's no one's trying to be horrible, but it can be quite overwhelming.
Do you do that, Steve? Do you actually do that regularly?
Yeah. It's a different. I find it's a different. It's not a mask because I had a big thing with masks a few years ago, but it's a different mode.
Where you go from work, Steve work mode to.
Yeah.
How does that work now you work from home?
Well,
that's a good point, though, isn't it? The separation is important, right?
It is, and what I try and
That's
do
got to be
is
hard.
yes and
That's
no,
hard.
but I find it like I try and find like a checkpoint in a game. So I'll be like, right, I'm doing that. So I'll try and time finishing work with a checkpoint. So so for example, dinner. Right, I'm going to go and make dinner, and I go and that. So it's kind of done. Do you know what I mean? Or so it's not just a case of, so Ria's made dinner or whatever. Oh, dinner's ready. Oh, yeah, I'll be there in a minute. I'm kind of got to carry on. I try and really.
It's never that easy, but if we're trying to, hit that point,
it isn't that easy. But your children have left home now, Dave, haven't they?
Well, two out of three, yeah.
Wow.
Two, yeah.
Okay. And so, how old is your first?
The eldest never. So the eldest is 27. He never came home from uni, much to his mother's disgust. He was due home and then diverted to live in Clapham with a couple of mates that he'd been at uni with in the last week. Never come home since. So,
again, that must make you proud in a way.
Absolutely, yeah. He's very independent, and. I'm proud of that independence in a way, but I want him to be closer as well, right? I want both. My daughter, so both sons actually work in insurance. They just know what to do, so they're the grinders, and off they go. And my daughter is the middle one. She's 26. She works in NHS. She did a degree in psychology at Loughborough. Did a year out in the NHS doing psychology as associate.
Wow.
Or training associate, and then went back to the NHS, and she's then done a master's, and she's absolutely the one that's carrying out that as a vocation and proper job, as I call it, right?
Proper job.
It's insurance, not as insurance.
Yeah,
not insurance, which is a conversation killer at the best of times. Follow-up question to I work in insurance is always tricky. So
I've got another point we need to bring up before, but we're sort of chugging along nearly to the end. You had a bit of a health scare.
Yeah.
Recently, but I wanted to bring that up because I think it's quite important to just sort of cover that. Did you want to just tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so absolutely. Yeah, there's a big gap between what we talked about and last year. I guess I'd always gone to regular health checkups in my previous job, like for years, every year, like a annual checkup, right? And I know I hadn't been for years, so last September. I just did it off my own bat actually, and went for a Bupa checkup. no reason to, by the way, no particular symptoms, and got a horrible call the following day saying your PSA is high, you're coming out at 8.3, I think the number was, and it should be 1. And the high PSA, as you guys will know, is a pointer for prostate cancer. And then you're just into a kind of whole world of tests and checks and whatever. So start with an MRI and then a biopsy, and then got diagnosed with prostate cancer. Yeah.
Wow.
Out of nowhere, basically. And it's quite funny, Dave, actually, that it's a year this week, actually, since I had a prostatectomy to take prostate out, basically. So it's been a funny old journey as well, on top of everything else that we've just covered in the last hour and a half. Yeah. But the numbers are amazing around this, and there's such a mental health piece around it as well. 1 in 8 men get prostate cancer. It's our breast cancer, right?
Wow.
Our equivalent. 1 in 4 black men. Don't know why. The numbers are astounding. Yeah. I think it's probably worse than that, is my honest opinion, because, it's very high, because I think a lot of it gets masked by men having other issues. They probably got this as well, right? But other things get in the way first.
Yeah.
Backups from COVID, not being detected in time, all sorts of stuff, right?
And we don't like going to the doctors.
Better. Right. Absolutely.
You were lucky.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too. Well, I look at both ways, actually. I look, thank God I did when I did. But I should have gone 5 years before, and then it would have been a lot more straightforward. Anyway, I've just fast forwarded right through that. But prostatectomy to remove the prostate this time last year. Straight after, it was okay, and readings are fine, but they started to go up again. So what it looks like has happened is, whilst the surgeon did it all right, there was clear margin around where the prostate was. But my diagnosis was there was cancer on the side, and it now appears that a little bit had already got out, but it was undetectable. You couldn't see it on a scan. So he's done his job. He's got clear margin around, but it's just the other side of the prostate. It's in the prostate bed, but the other side of the margin. So I've had an MRI scan back in the summer. There's something there. They can see it now because a year on it's sort of got slightly bigger. These are still tiny numbers, but it's got bigger, which is what's driving an increased PSA number that I'm having when I'm having the blood test checks. So I'm heading for some treatment at some point. Not too sure at the moment. It'll start in January. Got to go back for another PSA, and they'll see where that is in terms of the number. It's not going up hugely quickly, but probably going towards some HRT, which will bring the testosterone down, which effectively is what drives the PSA numbers going up, basically, if you know anything about it. And what they'll either do is just put it in to sleep for a while, and they'll just see what happens and just monitor it, because it's still very, very small, or end up with another set of radiotherapy or something just to blast that area where it is.
Dave, that's thank you.
Just let that out in a couple of minutes.
No, but it's there's so much there.
There's a huge amount there. Yeah.
Obviously, how on earth you process that again of all the things that we've spoken about being a man and and all that kind of stuff and all those how you process that how Sarah and the children process that and and also then there's the other kind of sad thing of this is another kick in the balls for men as well pardon the pun it's we don't like going to the doctors, I mean, I wasn't going to say this, I didn't want to feel stupid, but prostate is like to do with your arse, isn't it? Yeah, okay. So, again, there's that whole thing, isn't there? No one wants to go to the doctor and have something up their bum or whatever it is,
Yeah.
There's so much there, isn't there, that it's... And you're just sat there, and not even... And, not even all clear, and it's how are you processing that, Dave?
It actually links back to the stuff we talked about earlier in a nice way. So, strength of Sarah. It's really weird when you go and see a consultant, urologist, and you're listening to what he's saying, of course, and it's quite bad news and that. and you're not listening, are you? Of course, you just can't take it in. Your brain will not process what he's saying, and she's sitting there, obviously making notes and asking the right questions. So all that stuff around taking that in, understanding what they're saying, having that support, at first hand has been amazing. Whenever she has come along, it's been the major sort of discussions that have need to be had, so she absolutely understands intimately, what the situation is. So that's been massive. Been open to family again. We talked about that earlier. Haven't hidden anything at all, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the way we operate as a family anyway. So the kids know everything that's going on. That's been important as well with their support.
Yeah.
And just to answer your question a different way, I think you can look on Dr. Google and find trouble. It's so easy. And there's loads of stuff about, you look up prostate cancer, you can go anywhere with it, right? There's loads of forums. I can go on a forum and find some symptoms and think, well, that looks like mine. That guy's dying, I'm in trouble here. Look at Chris Hoy recently, right? Yeah. Diagnosed stage 4 cancer, 48. He went to hospital with shoulder injury, shoulder pain. And, he's not in a good, that says his numbers must have been off the scale in terms of how quickly that's, gone. Mine are thankfully, not like that at all. But it's the mentality piece that just tries to put it into a box, because otherwise you'll drive yourself mad. And my way of dealing with it has been to just trust the consultants, trust what you're being told, and just try and tuck it away somewhere and just get on with life, because I've got that brain where I could just drive myself mad if I really just sat here and, that can go anywhere with me, in terms of where that ends up. And it doesn't do anybody any good, right? You just wind yourself up.
No. It's that hurtling thing, isn't it, that we spoke about earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You just got to trust what's going on, and I suppose that we've touched on it as well. It's about this whole presence thing, isn't it? Being just living for this present bit. That's what Chris Hoy's been talking about. That's been a really interesting sort of reaction from him as well. That's his whole point. I'm here for now, right? We lose sight of that, don't we?
Yeah.
We just touched on that, didn't we, with life generally, in terms of that whole urgent versus important thing, right?
Yeah.
That context for me has become quite different around that, but I still need to deal with that. But it's that reminder. It really is.
We're always so like desperate to live in the future or the past.
Yeah. Oh God, I was just about to say that.
Desperate.
Never thought about that before.
Have you not?
No, Dave just saying, about living in the now. Like,
I was talking to you about living in the now.
Yeah, but they're saying living in the now, and they're saying living in the past. Do you know what I mean? And I think I do live a lot of my life in the past. One of the things I think a lot about at the moment, and people are talking a lot about at the moment, and actually something that I don't think you're doing at all, Dave, which is amazingly honourable, and that is being a victim. I think, I'd be a victim. No. A lot of my life is being a victim. I don't mind saying that. I want to change it. I want to work on changing it.
Your past is going to dictate that. I honestly feel I'm so lucky because I've got private health insurance. As soon as this was diagnosed, as soon as that PSA was passed, the first test, a week later in for referral, and it just went from there, right? And then I'm lucky, literally making appointments for the following week. When do you want this op? Choosing a date,
But does that come back to you working hard to be able to get the private healthcare?
Maybe.
So if you hadn't worked as hard, then you probably might not have been able to get the private healthcare. So
you're creating choices, aren't you? That way, a little bit. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But that present thing, I think, works both ways as well, Steve. Because I think you're talking about the past, but I think Sarah be guilty of this at times. There's a piece around just projecting too much in the future, right?
Yeah.
Second guessing everything. Oh no, it's going to be so bad. You haven't got there yet. You've no idea, right?
No. Yeah, 100%.
It's just as bad in a way. Just that future piece. So just a little reminder about just that present piece again. We touched on that quite a bit through this, and it's been quite a feature. Is
But do you ever either of you ever just sort of stop and look, like if you might be down the beach or I was in the spa the other day. It was my birthday.
What the news agent?
Happy birthday! Thank you very much. Just spa. And you're just in there and you just sit in that very moment and you just smell what's going on around you. Look up, it might be the sky. You look up to the sea, and because that's all that matters. Like now, this very moment is the only thing that matters.
Yeah. No, you're
walking along. I tell you what is an amazing thing to do next time you're in town. I read this about 6-7 years ago. People, when you walk, you sort of have a habit of just looking slightly tilted downwards, sort of around. But look, when you're next in town, look up, and I tell you, you'd be gobsmacked at the windows, how shabby they are, or stuff that's going on. People have got stuff hanging out the window, and also when you're walking around the trees, the colours and that, how tall the trees are.
You've been walking around Brixton or something.
Well, the trees are up here, you know, Ed.
Oh, okay, up there.
Yeah, you know. Well, you wouldn't know that because you don't fucking walk anywhere.
Ain't got time for that.
You should do that.
Got time for walking.
And look at the colour of things.
No, you're
It's
right.
There was a now about what you just said there, right? That's that now piece, but you're just taking it in. There's a now about the walking the dog, and there's a now about the coffee. That do you know what I mean? That's we're treasuring that stuff, right? And we're not making enough of it in terms of making sure we do it and more and do it enough.
So every Wednesday
That's a real takeaway. That's a real takeaway.
Man down Cornwall things every Thursday night. But every Wednesday, whoever sort of outside of that, sort of the official man down thing, they'll meet every Wednesday morning, 10 o'clock, just for an hour for a coffee and maybe a bacon bat. Go somewhere different every time in town, and just sit there. And do you know what? I don't like particularly hanging out with groups unless I'm cooking for them. I'm not particularly stick a chef's jacket on me and I'll talk to people. But apart from that, I'm like, do you know what? Yeah, exactly. I'm not. I can't be fucking
You are
arsed.
quite miserable. Yeah, you don't. Really
I can be quite miserable. Yeah, but what I like about this group is there might be.
You're not.
I think there might be 6, 8, 10 people. You're like, you had a good week, and do you know what? What I love about it is you can go, just been a bit shit actually. You don't have to be like, oh, how's the weather? Oh, yeah, it's been fucking lovely this week.
No, it's beautiful.
There's no pretense. Thank you. There's no pretense at all. You know, you can go along, you can talk to Justin, or you say to bloody Keith, you take the piss out of Keith, who sort of organises it all. And you know what? I don't know these blokes very well at all, but it is fucking brilliant. You literally just sit there with the old man or you, and there's a few others, and you just talk.
Do you know what it is?
And I feel so relaxed.
Do you know what it is? And I know this sounds a bit cruel, what I'm going to say, but it is effectively a bunch of misfits, right? And I don't mean that in a horrible way.
I don't think so at all.
No, I don't mean it. I know that sounds incredibly negative. Right?
I hope they fucking don't watch this.
No, I'm including myself.
They're all fucking suicidal. No joke.
I'm including myself in that. It's a bunch of people that ordinarily, right, probably wouldn't be like close friends or in each other's pockets or anything like that, right?
You look around the group.
Right. No, and but them to us as well, right? This is what I'm saying. I'm not being horrible to them. Them to us.
Yeah.
And do you know what? We all come together for breakfast. None of that matters.
No,
sounds great.
It's we're all human beings with one problem. Yeah. That problem is we're all struggling with our mental health.
And I think what I thought initially was, what I thought with that, and you didn't mean that, was like, oh, we're just a group of like people with mental health issues, so all
disparate.
But you didn't actually mean that. But with the bunch that it is, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
your point was that's the strength of it, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
that's where you come across.
I fucking love it.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, it's just. It's almost like all of the pretense, all of the social norms and social assumptions and all that kind of shit. It doesn't matter.
Get away.
But it's
come on. Do you?
I'm going to do my thing.
Just one little question. So, how do I use your platform then to raise the profile of, men checking themselves out properly?
Well,
anyone over 45, right, is going to be within that window, 45 onwards, definitely from 50.
What we can do is we can sort out the links.
It's a blood test. It'd be a waste if I didn't try and push 100%. That with you guys to try and raise that profile, right? Because I've had so much success just people being aware, and I'm just being open with them and talking. Just making it real, right? It's our biggest challenge from a health point of view as men, and we have to do more to raise the profile. Because now I've said it, you'll be so much more aware, trust me. Because when you hear it firsthand from someone, and I'm being authentic about it, and I'm just saying you real and raw, it seems to resonate with people that much more.
You've just said something already that's already made me think, because I honestly thought, and this may well be the case down the line, but I honestly thought that, it's a bit like, so ladies have to go in and have a smear, don't they?
Yeah.
Which is quite intrusive, I think, from what I understand.
Absolutely.
I thought that's what we had to do as well. Is that not the case?
Not the case at all. It's not. I think that is that there's like a set program of that.
No, don't be a dick.
There's a set program.
No, I thought
seriously.
that someone come up with a cotton wool bud or
your
something.
penis?
No, of course not on your fucking penis, you idiot. Up your ass. Sorry, Dave.
But there's a testing regime about all that doesn't exist for prostate cancer. And I think the problem with it is at the moment in the UK, if there were, if they tried to get all men just to have a simple blood test, all it is, forget the finger up the bum, right? That would be the first check you do. Before we even got to that point, the knock-on load onto the NHS of then putting, zillions of men through MRI scans and then into the system from there, I don't think it can cope, and it stops it happening. It should be the same. It's no different to what women are going through with that smear regime where it's that set, right? It
I
should
paid
be the same.
22 quid a private sort of thing comes around every year down at the local rugby club. 22 quid, blood test, bang, done.
Right.
It's basically for over 40, 44, 45s. I think you can...
45 tends to be the
sorry, I apologise. It's not...
Yeah.
You don't have to be over that age, but that's the recommended sort of over that. And I think mine were really low, and they said have it done in 2 years.
Right.
So, yeah.
And the thing is as well, it doesn't necessarily, if you've got a high reading, I mean, obviously I was unlucky in a way, but you get a high read doesn't necessarily mean you've got cancer, right? It could be your prostate is enlarged, you just got an infection, it doesn't, and even if there's something there, it doesn't mean it could be benign, right? It doesn't mean it's a tumour.
Yeah, my dad's is a little bit
lots
higher
of stuff
because
that
of
people
his
get carried
age.
away with that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So what is...
Well, you'll get it in the end. We'll all get it. You guys are going to get prostate cancer at some point in your lives. By the time you get it, you have 5 other things and not even notice. Trust me.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
But the awareness is so important. It really is.
So is it worth?
That's
Does the
fucking
NHS invite men to come in and they don't?
No.
Wow.
So you need to, if you went to your doctor and you said, I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm 50. I've been getting up 3 times a night. I've got a bit of blood in my wee. You're in, right? You just make it up and force it.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a history of it, through my family. That's what it takes to kind of, I think, to get it. But doctors are getting far more au fait with that, and it's getting much better. But we've still got a long way to go.
Wow.
Or I'd imagine
No
also
question.
contact your doctor and find out if there's something like a private thing
Yeah, exactly.
that I went to. And then they'll
Well,
be
like you
point-
said, some
point
sort
in the
of
right direction.
exactly, some testing regime that they're doing.
But we'll
some
make sure
promotion, all
we'll
that
have a
stuff.
chat. We'll have a chat with you about some links, Dave. We'll make sure we.
Yeah, there's a
we'll
good one
put
into
some
the
stuff on
prostate cancer. There's a prostate cancer main website. Which is government sponsored.
Have you got any
there's all sorts
contacts
of-
there at all, Dave? Or no?
Not personally, no.
Be
But
worth
even
us
just to
trying
link
to
into
get in
that,
touch,
yeah.
We'll see if we can get in
Well,
touch
I
with them
don't-
as well, and see if they
do
can
something.
see if they can contribute with some links and graphics and stuff like that. Because this, I'm being honest, I'm 39. I do think I'm pretty invincible. To be fair,
You don't even say that in jest. do you?
no, I don't. No, not at all. no, genuinely. Like,
No, I know.
yeah,
That's why I
no,
say you
I
don't.
don't.
Even say, you say that.
And
Yeah.
Will do.
it
That's
wouldn't
right.
occur to me for a second.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even, wouldn't occur to me to you say things like prostate cancer. Well, to be fair, any type of cancer, and I'm just think it's just not me. It's not what
I was going to go for an MOT at the doctor's. I had a text saying, basically, do you want to come for an MOT?
Yeah.
And I was like, this looks dodgy. So I was like, I had a look at the number, and it was the same number I had. It was proper doctors just up the road here. Anyway, I couldn't make it, so I rebooked. Just the general health check,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
No harm done.
Yeah. No,
Steve,
definitely.
you need to recognise if your age begins with 3, you're in your prime, and actually when you're in your prime is the time to worry about your health and look after it.
Yeah.
That might be a way of looking at it, right?
No, you
Does
are.
this
And that benefit of hindsight now looking back. So
Does this fella look like he's in his prime?
that is your prime, right? Late 30s, I think you're probably in your prime. Yeah, in terms of the balance between
You might
your
be,
financial your financial status, your age, your health. That this is it, right? That's probably as good as it gets.
Yeah, I think you're only jealous, Dave. So because you're near
which
50
part?
now, all of it.
5 away from 50, Steve.
So look, Dave, we've kept you ages, but look, really appreciate.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's
Really
actually
enjoyed
been
the
one
chat.
of the
like-
best, actually. That we've
Didn't
spoken
really
to.
know. Sometimes we have guests on that you.
Right.
We had a young lad on the other day, which was blown away by how eloquent he was. Jesus Christ, a local lad, and didn't know what to expect then. And
This has been beautiful,
yeah,
actually.
it's been
But I've got a question for you,
like
Dave.
really,
Enjoyed it.
really
Yeah.
amazing. Anyway,
Look, we
so
ask
go on.
every guest.
Yeah. But Dave knows this because he's watched all our podcasts
Of
already.
course he has, yeah.
Of course.
What is your definition of love?
Oh, blimey. No, I haven't. Oh, that's a great question. If I think about this, Sarah, it's that deep feeling of someone that you cherish and want to be forever, be together with forever.
That's beautiful. I love
Oh,
that.
Jesus.
That.
Top bloke.
Thank you very much. We will collate all these ones.
Yeah,
Dave.
no, I can't. That's going to be our January job. We could have a load of quotes. Dave stayed pretty cool then. I like it. You're a pretty cool guy. But sometimes people are like, fucking hell.
takes-
Oh, you've caught me off guard there
It's
and
just-
bouncing
yeah,
around.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
It's, but
Just
it's
off
a
the
good
hip,
one.
right?
It's a
Shoot
good
off the
one.
hip.
We'll explain why we asked that in a minute because we always repeat ourselves.
Yeah,
but we'll-
otherwise
Right.
people get bored.
Yeah.
Cheers,
Right.
Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Really,
Thank you, guys.
absolute pleasure, mate. You're a
Yeah,
superstar. so
thanks for your
thank you.
time. Really enjoyed it. Cheers, guys.